Hey guys, Hunter here. Sorry it's coming in a bit late, but yeah, I just wanted to present my Yalom chapter from the book. Also, sorry I decided not to show my pretty face today, so it'll just be my voice. Hope that's alright. Let's get into it. So, this is going to be going over mainly, this is the Yalom chapter that focuses on the stages of group development. So we're going to start there, going over, stages of development, going on into, the impact of clients and clinicians, and then, some of the common member problems that arise from that. So let's just start. Stages of group development. So I wanted to start kind of with a discussion, why is it important to know about, group development stages? Why is it important to understand why do you think it's important to understand what's happening to groups as they go through these big transformative phases? For me, and some things the book also highlighted is that a big advantage is that you're able to diagnose problems easier, as in you can tell the group is okay, right now, things are a little more contentious. It's okay. That's normal. You can recognize okay, we're probably in the more aggressive stage. That's what's happening. Or if group members are being too nice, it might be okay, we're still in a formative stage. So just understanding what's favorable and what's flawed in the development is good. It gives you the confidence to just tell people, why is this happening in this way at this point? And that's really the big deal. Why is everything happening in this way at this point? So I wanted to kind of show kind of a fun little graphic that kind of explains the stages. This is a graphic taken from other group developments, but it's called forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. It's pretty easy to remember, but I feel it kind of illustrates really well. You can see here, you start out in the forming phase and things feel a little better, there's a little hesitation, but also a lot of politeness. Then you get into the storming phase where there's a lot of conflict and rebellion going on, and this is probably where the group's the least cohesive and the least united. But then you get into the norming phase, where you're developing that cohesiveness. Things are getting better, you're building bridges. And then you get to the performing phase where you're actually working together well, and things are going really well. Before the adjourning phase is just where the group naturally ends. Another note really quick is that it is really good not to think of these stages rigidly. And I could ask you why do you think that might be the case? I know for myself personally, one of the things is kind of with the stages of grief, while they're really helpful to understand, thinking that you have to go through them in that order is detrimental to people who are experiencing something different. Sometimes you might go straight from forming to norming and then back to storming. And being prepared for that and understanding that sometimes groups will develop in flexible ways is really helpful. All these stages still happen typically. It's just the order in which they happen can look a little different. And once again, it goes back to just being confident. Okay, this is the stage that we're in right now. You can diagnose the stage and be okay, let me apply the principles to help us through this stage. Or just normalize and be this is normal and this is okay. So I want to start out, let's just go through each of the stages. So starting out with the initial stage. This is the inner out stage. This is where we're all just a bunch of chill guys here, or chill guys and gals. We're here seeking belonging. There's a lot of acceptance or denial. A lot of sizing each other up, but overall it's very polite. The book kind of likened this unto being in a cocktail party, and I think that's really true, where it's almost stereotypical, where you're just polite, you're approaching things with the appearance of rationality, as group members, and you're suppressing those more irrational aspects and tendencies. Makes a lot of sense. You're saving face a little bit more, you don't know these people really well. So yeah, a cocktail party, you're just trying to appear rational, and as part of this, group members will often offer, as the book puts it, less than useful advice. Bad advice giving is just kind of a hallmark of early groups, and also honestly, humans in general. And I think it's great, because I think it shows we want to help each other. We just unfortunately advice giving is just not very accurate, and it's not super helpful, and that's not the best way to use group time. Sometimes it can be, but typically it isn't, and you get a lot of that less than useful advice in these early days. Um, yeah. So, moving on now, like, I just wanted to give some tips for what the group leader can do during this time. This is a really great time for the group leader to be involved. Like, it's really important to model behavior, like, to show, like, to provide some direction, some structure, like, offer the group a roadmap. Like, once again, going back, like normalizing the fact that the group, like the stage the group is currently in, and saying like we'll probably get to more of a contentious storming phase, but like we can get out of this and get into a place where things are going really well. So just normalizing anxiety, normalizing like some of the group members' fears, and like helping people realize it's okay to be open and try to trust each other, and it's okay for there to be a little conflict and have little anxiety during this time. The biggest thing, the most important thing probably is also focusing on the here and now. Keeping things in what's happening now in the group, how are we feeling now, is going to be really helpful and where like time is best spent, according to the book. So now moving on to the second stage, this is the top or bottom stage. This stage, so like the first stage is in or out. We're just a bunch of chill guys and gals at a cocktail party. This is top or bottom. This is dominance, conflict, judgment, shooting, the storming stage. This, if the first stage was cocktail party, this is Thanksgiving. Like, this is Thanksgiving dinner, and we are getting political. There's a lot of negative comments happening during this time. Politeness is abandoned in favor of, like, critiquing each other. Like, there's still that advice giving, but now it's, like, laced with all this shoulds. And, like, you should be better than this, you should do this. So, the book kind of, like, points out that there's also hostility towards the therapist or scapegoating other clients. So, like, the therapist is going to be dealing with some hostility directed at them. And it's very important for the therapist to discern between what is accurate criticism of their approach versus just what is the group, like, just naturally going to do. Like, every group is going to criticize the therapist for a few reasons. So, it's important to be able to discern the difference between the two. So the stage is also super important for the group leader to be involved in. Like, this is the storming stage. It's good to just normalize that. Also, like, it's really good to, the book gives some really good suggestions, such as, like, using your first name to reinforce that flattened hierarchy. You can manage conflict without being super aggressive or defensive. And that includes, like, understanding that, like, conflict, like, remember, normalizing that conflict during this time is natural, and it's okay to feel that way. Sorry, I got an alarm going off. The other thing is, it's important to remember that, like, conflict can be explored. It can be used for therapeutic purposes. It doesn't have to be something to be afraid of. This is a great time to explore when people are being critical or defensive or hostile towards you, to explore that and explore what they're getting at, why they're saying that way, like focusing on the here and now. The other thing is, if you do mess up, if you do make mistakes, if you get heated, normalize repair, like model it, like show that everybody in the group can receive feedback and can grow. I think that's such a great principle of like we're humans too, we're fallible, and not only like is it not bad to accept that and to show that we're also making mistakes and repairing, but that's actually good. Like, that's therapeutic to be able to model that and show that, especially for some people who've just never experienced that from leaders in their lives. And like also like one of the things I really liked about like when it talked about scapegoats, like, the people in the group getting like picked on by everybody. I mean, we've seen this in the videos, but I liked how it said like humanize scapegoats by comparing them to others in the group. So like if I don't know, like Dr. Bart is complaining about like being late because of his overwhelming practice, and then all of a sudden all the groups are picking on him for everything, being able to like humanize and be like, hey, like Sally, like you've talked about in past sessions before with struggling to be late, what helped you, or like what was difficult, or like, hey, like I don't know, Alan, like you've felt like the group's kind of picked on you before. Like, what did that feel like? Just connecting the scapegoats to other people in the group helps humanize them and helps form that bond, so we can get out of this dominance, this the storming stage, and move on into the next stage, which is near or far. This is the self-disclosure stage. Trust, safety, freedom of expression, group cohesion is developing. This is Christmas. So, like, if the first stage is the cocktail party, Second stage is Thanksgiving dinner. This is Christmas Day. Everyone just wants to be happy. There's a lot more intimacy, and everybody's having a good time. Um, Members are more open about the real reasons for seeking treatment, like attendance is improved. There's more concern for missing members, like like if they don't attend, because it's about being near or far. Like there's a huge focus during this time on intimacy. People are being more honest about like their real emotions. People are showing their irrationality, and instead of being defensive about it, they're being vulnerable. So there are two phases to this third stage. The first one is that like there's great mutual support going on, and that's great. What are the difficulties with this is that they suppress negativity in favor of unity. So like people are still hiding some of like the negative feelings they have towards each other, because at this point they just want things to feel good between each other. They want to keep that ball rolling. So getting to the second phase is where you get true mature cohesion, which is where negative emotions are expressed, they're understood, and they're worked through. You're showing group members that like they can remain stable through conflict. They can work through conflict, and it's okay to get upset at each other, maybe get a little heated. You can work through that and repair. Like once again, some of these people, this might be the first time in their life they're able to do this with other people. So I think that's a great thing to recognize. Some like tips for the therapist: just continue to be part of the group. Be mindful that like, the one of the people in the book called this cyclotherapy. Like the group may return to previous cycles. Like once again, it's not necessarily a straight line here. Like you're going to be like going through all these phases, especially like as different things come up. So just being aware of that and like normalizing it and knowing it's okay if like the group's less cohesive some sessions, and helping to diagnose what the problems are and work through it. And help the members through those challenges. Another thing that the book talked about is like sending out like what they call group GCQ questionnaires to like, and individual questionnaires to get an idea of how group members are doing individually, and like making sure like you're understanding where they're at, because they might have some feedback for you privately that they're scared to share with the group. So it's good to like just be aware of how the group's doing. All right, so on to part 2. We're going to talk about the impact that clients and clinicians have. So first of all, like, rude and vocal, like, members of the group can, like, really influence, like, the direction that the group goes in. The book has a great example of this, where in the first, I'll just read the story to you because it's really helpful. Like, in the first meeting of a group of childhood sexual abuse victims, like, a member made a number of comments to the effect that she was disappointed that so many of the others present were at a place where their healing was such an early state. Sorry, I like butchered that sentence. Okay. A member made a number of comments to the effect that she was disappointed that so many members were present whose healing was at such an earlier state than hers. Like, isn't that such a terrible thing to say? Like, why? Like, why would you even say something like that? That's just terrible. Like, it's so condescending. It's so rude. It's so hurtful. Like, moving on. Like, I mean, I guess that's why she's in therapy. Naturally, like, this invoked consent, and I'm being a little harsh because, like, in the end, this was a group for people who experienced childhood sexual abuse. I can't imagine what that's like, and I shouldn't be too judgy. Anyway, moving on. Naturally, this evoked considerable anger from the others, who attacked her for her condescending remarks. Before long, this group developed into the angriest and least caring group we had ever encountered. What they go on to say is basically, like, we cannot claim that this one member put anger into the group. It would be more accurate to say that she acted as a lightning rod to release anger that was already present in each of the participants. But had she not been in the group, it is likely that the anger may have unfolded more slowly, perhaps in a context of greater safety, trust, and cohesion. Groups that do not start well face a far more difficult challenge than ones that follow the normal developmental sequence. So I'd just like to ask you guys, like, how would you handle someone like this if you were the therapist? How would you try to help the group recover from something so difficult? Especially because, like, those early sessions are critical. Like, you don't want to get too angry too fast. Like, what would you guys do to kind of control something like that? Or not control, but, like, explore, work through it. I'm interested in hearing your guys' thoughts. So moving on, clinicians also obviously have a huge effect on the group. And one of the biggest things that the book talks about is just being able to make sure we're including group members who rarely speak and not just reinforcing the group members who speak the most. And we all get it. Like, we've all done presentations where we just, like, live for that one person that's super engaged and attentive. Like, and it feels good, like, to just work with that one person, but like you start to deny all the other people who could be adding their valuable voice. And so it's just kind of balancing that, making, especially because that one person who's like doing all the commenting can get burnt out. So just making sure to like be mindful of those two groups is important. All right, moving on to membership problems. We're going to blaze through this. I want to be respectful of your guys' time and not go on too long. So I want to go over turnover, attendance, punctuality, dropouts, removing clients from the group, departing members, and addition of new members. That's kind of the overview of the membership problems. So starting with turnover, just wanted to be brief with this, but it's better. It's less of a problem with lower sessions. If that makes sense. Here are the numbers here for you. The other thing is, prior concurrent individual therapy usually helps reduce turnover. So, which makes sense. Like preparing people for the group with like some intervention before getting into group therapy, and continuous like individual therapy helps them stay motivated to keep coming to the group. I think the book also suggested like starting groups a little bigger to be prepared for attrition, and it kind of said its golden number was like 9 to 10 members were recommended to start out with. Moving on to attendance and punctuality. Attendance, super important. Same with punctuality. Like, it communicates how important it is to each group member, but also like it's going to interrupt things. Like, kind of like the book talked about, like not missing one session won't like kill the group therapy, but it's like missing a chapter of a book. And eventually, if you miss enough chapters, you're not reading the same story. So it talked about like dealing with that, and like some of the bad effects of that. There's an example in the book about like a businessman and how essentially like he blamed his poor attendance on work responsibilities, but they then came to find out that what was really going on is that he was having an affair and he was super ashamed of it. And being able to like be open about the fact that he was having an affair actually led to him increasing his attendance. He never had problems again, and he actually like later confessed that like the reason he was always late is because he was just checking his email at work. He was essentially procrastinating. Like, as soon as like he was able to like open up like that and realize that the group was helpful to him and work through that, he actually like made attendance a priority. So there are some great tips that the book gives for it. I don't have a lot of time, but I just wanted to like point out, charging full fees for missed sessions like is really important. Say, make sure to model punctuality yourself as a therapist. And just once again, understand that absenteeism or tardiness is a form of behavior that reflects an individual's characteristics, patterns of relating to others. So their absenteeism or their tardiness probably is a likely indicator of it being present in other aspects of their lives, and working through that and figuring out, how to help them is really important. Obviously, there are cultural factors as well. Just being on time just isn't as important to some cultures. And, we got to keep that in mind. All right. Moving on to dropouts. The book talks about how, this is a really big deal. Obviously, losing group members is, really sucks. And, there are a lot of reasons it can happen. Includes, poor fit, stress, deviancy. We talked about just that, really, there are some clients that can really wreck group cohesion, and just aren't a good fit for group therapy. Another big one is poor clinicians. It's not all our fault if people leave therapy, but good therapists make a big difference. And I think under always wanting to improve, while not shaming ourselves, but always having the sense of I want to be the best therapist I can be, that'll make a huge difference in group health and reducing dropouts. The book also, here are a few tips. I don't really have time to go over it in too much detail, but just, here they are. You can screenshot them if you want. The big thing is just, selecting, keep in mind good fit. Selecting the right members who are group therapy would be good for them. Moving on to, removing clients from the group, that's actually a really important part of reducing dropout. Because, it's like firing a bad coworker. I had a job where... I was an agency CNA, so I didn't work for this company I was at, but I was basically called in to help. This was during the pandemic, and they always tried to recruit me to their facility, But one of the things that the director of nursing tried to like brag about is that she never fired people. Like she was like, "Hey, like I don't fire people," and like she said this like a brag, and I didn't tell her this, but I was like, "Why would I want to work for you?" Like, because I know you got some terrible employees, like, and I can see why now. Like, I would never like want to work for somebody who refused to fire people, because sometimes you just gotta get like some people out of situations where it gets toxic. Like it's ethical to remove problem members, not just for like the rest of the group, but for for ourselves, like for them. Group therapy might not be a good fit, and it might do them more harm than good. Like the book gives like three really good examples here that I don't have time to read, but you can screenshot if you want, that kind of goes over like the different consequences of not removing like problem members. So like once again, like here are the therapy tips. I don't really have time to go into this again, but just like understand that like it's usually best to remove clients in a private meeting, and like always make sure you've done everything you can to remove the obstacles that might be making it difficult for them to be part of the group before going on to removing them. But like removing them needs to be an option, like we talked about before. It's ethical. All right. So the last thing that the book talks about, yep, I got 2 slides left. So the last thing the book talks about is departing members. The really important thing here is just to make sure they don't leave group therapy when they're departing feeling like it's just one more failure, because it's really easy to feel that way. These are people who like have like felt like their entire lives have been failures in some cases. So it's really helpful to take that last individual session with them to like help them reframe the experience, see that it was a lot more about fit, that like, and explore other therapy alternatives. Just basically saying like, for several possible reasons, a form of therapy proved unsuccessful. Let's focus on the future. It's also great to get their perspective during this time. They might have some good data like on like what happened in the group, what it was like to be part of the group. Maybe it was like group problems that drove them away. Like regardless, it's good to like get their understanding. Another really important thing really quick is that the group talked about testing denial. Specifically, it's just like clients who are heavy in denial, it's not really helpful to tell them what their problems are. Like even if you're 100% sure, like a great thing the book said is avoid adding insight to injury. Like some people just like they just might not be at a place where they're ready to hear what they could have done better. And especially if they're not interested in therapy in the future, it might not be the best idea to just add insight to that injury. They might not take it like well, or they might totally reject it. Obviously, like use your therapy discretion, because there are times where like being pretty bold and straight up with people is exactly what they need. So like use your therapy discretion. For the last thing, just adding new members, the big thing to keep in mind, it's gonna cause some chaos, some instability. But the other thing we got to keep in mind is new members have really unique strengths that like it won't be evident to some of the group members initially. Specifically, they bring a new perspective. Like they can help like older group members recognize their progress that they've made, and can see that progress. They can also enhance morale, and like they can catch up pretty quickly. Like you usually skip the first 2 stages when you are added to a new group, and you can just get to where the group is now. Some big thing to keep in mind is just like make sure to introduce new members in pairs. Like it helps with giving them something in common. Prep the new members in private, and focus on incorporating the new members. Like the big thing the book talks about is like until incorporation is complete, little therapeutic work can be done. So yeah, thanks for coming to this lecture of mine. I hope it was helpful. And yeah, like that's everything. So take care, y'all.